not just, I have to say, the Minister of Police and Judith Collins this morning, but a whole series of government ministers, and we're joined by one now. Shane Jones joins us. Shane, I know we're going to talk about something else, mate, but this is shocking, isn't it? I mean, when did you find out about this?
We were briefed by the relevant ministers over the last 48 hours. The suppression orders and the information had to be obviously carefully curated, so it was left with the relevant ministers. And look, I think the report speaks volumes. I dare say there's a few more wrinkles to be ironed out in terms of what role did the Public Service Commission have. Are there things that could have been done better by them, but no doubt the relevant ministers will tease all that out.
Listen, just on, as a minister, the other shocking revelation to come out of this morning is that Police Commissioner Costa informed those police staff seconded to Mark Mitchell's office not to provide emails to him that were addressed to him, and to intercept all those and to hide them from the police minister. I mean, that goes to the basic heart of whether or not you can trust your public staff, doesn't it? And as a minister yourself, you'd be scandalised if you thought that information was being deliberately suppressed to you from your departments that you're responsible for, wouldn't you?
Well, I can only talk about the small part of the jungle I occupy. The lady who runs my office, the lady who's the senior press officer, and the bloke who's the main problem solver of a policy economic nature, they have access to every single email that comes to my parliamentary Shane Jones ministerial email. Mm. And there is just no way that either of those three, and they're more political and bureaucratic, would ever have hidden from me. Look, there's an email that's come in. It pertains an allegation to a family member, or it pertains to an allegation to a caucus member of New Zealand First. There's just no way that they would acquiesce with, okay, that has to be shown not to the minister, unless there's a conflict of interest, and say, I don't know, I've identified various people as conflicts of interest, and then obviously they steer that away to another minister, so it doesn't look as if I'm doing mates a favour. But you're not talking about a conflict of interest. You're talking about Mark Mitchell not having been given a heads up that there was a pile of muck smouldering in the department that he's responsible for, and they were willfully moved away from him. And I guess people would allege, we did that because it's an operational issue and the minister doesn't have anything to do with operational issues, but doesn't pass the sniff test, mate.
No, of course it doesn't. And it's a ridiculous line also. Sure, as a minister, I mean, if something goes wrong, you've got to be able to monitor the operational ability of whatever department you're in charge of.
So yeah, totally.
It's such a false line. All right, Shane, the other issue I wanted to talk to you about this morning was the latest release of the Waitangi Tribunal report on Crown policies concerning the use of te reo in the public service. But I'm also interested in, I ran a story last week, broke it on the station last Monday, I think it was, of Ngāi Tahu iwi seeking compensation for their hurt cultural feelings from Oceania Gold for an expansion of a gold mine, which now is on the fast track approval process. You had some views on that issue yourself, I think. I saw it on YouTube.
Yeah, look, I absolutely resent that the regional councils are unwilling to make statutory decisions without outsourcing a high level of influence to third parties, who in this case is a part of the Ngāi Tahu tribe, thus giving them the false belief that they hold the power of veto over the commercial development of the nation. That's the first thing that's wrong. So if you create an opportunity through the Regional Council or the Crown for tangata whenua group to magnify and exaggerate the level of their influence or their capacity to use threats of litigation, therefore you stop a resource consent. Mate, if I pulled that trick up here as a minister, the SFO would be over me like a robber's dog. Now, we've allowed this culture, and of course the crowning folly was while Winston and I were booted out after the disastrous 2020 election, one of the energy companies paid a sum of money, as in what I regard as extortion money, so that they could go relatively unfettered and get the necessary consent. I had the CEO in here. I had the chairman in here. I blasted them both barrels. I told them, how the hell did this get through your assurance committee? To me, this borders on extortion. Well, they denied it and they said that it was all above board and that's how the system works. So we're going to have absolutely, with the changes that I've made to the fast track with Bishop, we're going to have absolutely none of that in our new changes. But I would say that the issue you've raised is less about the fast track. It was an issue to determine whether or not non-notified or notified should be the way forward for a consent. And Ngāi Tahu, I was told, said, no, unless you give us X, Y, Z, we are going to oppose you enjoying a non-notified regional council decision. Correct. So good congratulations to you. I knew of the issue, but then part of the problem I've got with these corporates is they're unwilling themselves to stand up and challenge this feral behaviour for fear of ruining whatever they see as their prospects of getting more consents in the future with the acquiescence or the total hostility from the iwi or indeed the council. I mean, if you want to know what's wrong with the productivity of this country, look no further than the planners, the institutional culture, the graft that has grown up around RMA.
Oh, listen, I don't disagree with you at all. And you're right about the cowardice of corporates. But I guess that cowardice is based upon, as you say, the commercial realization that they might win this particular battle, but they could lose the war in terms of when governments change or when they want to go for their next consent, they will be punished for standing against the tide. Yes?
Sadly, that particular calculus that they have to undertake pertains to climate change, decarbonisation, SNAs, catastrophizations of lizards, frogs, geckos, and other superfluous critters. So this is what I'm saying. It's a deeply embedded culture that represents dead weight cost on not only those enterprises, not only the calculus of the managers, but the whole bloody economy. I mean, what about the working class people who may or may not lose their jobs if a regional council and a corporate and an iwi can't find some sort of middle ground where the runanga or the tangata whenua feel that their pound of flesh has been yielded? It's disgusting. No wonder the bloody place is still struggling to recover from COVID, mate.
And on that, the Waitangi Tribunal last week released its Taku Reo Kaharangi report on Crown policies concerning the use of te reo in the public service. The claim was brought by Ngāi Tarangi, focused on commitments in the coalition agreement between yourselves and National to ensure that all public service departments have their primary name in English except those specifically related to Māori, and also required public service departments to communicate primarily in English except those entities specifically related to Māori, and this led to a flurry of applications to the tribunal who found that the Crown breached the principles of Te Tiriti, including Rangatiratanga Partnership, Active Protection, Equity and Good Government. Your response to that, Shane?
Yeah, well, number one, the Waitangi Tribunal had absolutely no business giving urgency to that claim. That's the first thing.
Mm.
So we've got to ask ourselves, what are the thought processes, what are the guardrails around that organisation responding in some Pavlovian canine way to every application? Because it's not only that one, it's the stupendously dopey outcome about citizenship as well. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the government in my lifetime has poured extraordinarily large amounts of dough into the journey of the Māori language renaissance. Now, my kids are a part of that experience, although I had the good fortune of Dad's mum, born in 1892. For that generation and how we lived in Awanui, if you had the good fortune to grow up in a household where there were people speaking different languages, it's like water in a sponge, mate. You just pick it up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if you don't continually use that intellectual muscle of your mind that pertains to a facility in language, that it rusts and it goes away, but then you practice it and it comes back. So what I don't like about the tribunal's decision is that don't look to Wellington in terms of the commitment and the hard work you have to make to either learn Mandarin, Latin, French, Spanish, or Te Reo. It is literally a biblical experience by the sweat of thy brow. Now, the resources have been put aside through the wānanga, through the kura, a variety of other things. And parents can make choices as to where they get their kids educated if they want that sort of exposure. And I'm all cool with that. My own kids have been in and out of that experience. I don't know what they're doing with my grandchildren. I think a couple of them are in kura. But the point I'm making is that it adds to this fallacy, it adds to this fiction that somehow there's a well-conceived conspiracy to thwart the capacity of communities to use the language. It's absolute rubbish. But the problem is, why are the judges at the Waitangi Tribunal continually thumbing their nose? And that's why we're waiting for Goldie and Tama to bring back this the option to curb, as obviously we don't have the votes to get rid of the Waitangi Tribunal, to curb the legal ability for the Waitangi Tribunal to sniff something, and if it represents a suitable odour, in a way they go on their malodorous ways.
Well, and on that, the Waitangi Tribunal has also just recently, as you know, made judgment on the issue of citizenship.
This is exactly what I said.
Yeah. I mean, the extraordinary that it would say, well, there's only one group of New Zealanders, Shane, who will be given the ability to be citizens in this country if they've been out of this country for 2 generations, but everybody else will be treated differently. That's I would have thought that's deeply systematically racist, wouldn't you?
Well, we're not a Zionist state.
Yes,
I know that
there
is capacity to gather the lost tribes of Israel.
Yes.
And there probably are Māori who believe if you've got the whakapapa, you're from Ngāpuhi o Ngai Tahu, then you should have a guaranteed ability to re-establish your citizenship. But once again, why is the Waitangi Tribunal even indulging public money, its own time in that issue? It not only is, in my view, totally marginal and superfluous, but I can't understand where in the spectrum of things pertaining to the treaty is the sort of the thinking, the kind of rational process to give priority to that. It beggars belief, mate.
It does. I'm interested and intrigued, though, that the Waitangi Tribunal has almost become a croaking Cassandra, hasn't it, of its own volition. So it continually talks about, you're letting everything down, you're doing a dreadful job, Then I'm interested, though, when these reports end up in the government machine in Wellington, what happens? Do they go into the big rubbish bin, or are they taken seriously by your departmental personnel?
Well, I've no doubt there's a hopper somewhere, and they fed into that hopper. In some cases, they re-emerge. For example, Andrew Little, in the middle of the COVID experience, decided to completely invert the health system. It didn't follow the advice of Heather Simpson, where they wanted a limited number of DHBs, a more centralised focus, and a kind of halfway house. But no, they threw all that out, got rid of all the DHBs, which may or may not have been a good thing, and then decided to institute a co-governance model. That came from a Waitangi Tribunal report pertaining to Māori health many years ago. So it was reprised from the crypt and given life as some sort of zombie thinking. Now, because zombies, sadly, at the end of the day, zombies are not real. But this one was resuscitated for a mercifully short period of time before we put it out of its misery. But you can trace that back to the Waitangi Tribunal. There are some, I think the heyday was when we were dealing with property rights, dealing with historical grievances, and there was a broad body of goodwill, Michael, even amongst sort of doubting Thomases.
Yep.
But now it's stretched into so many crevices of what should be regarded as the ordinary business of governance in New Zealand. And if you want to reflect different perspectives, or you want to curb certain excesses, then we have the system called democracy. Then we have politicians to do that. But no, this Waitangi Tribunal, something akin to mission creep, is searching. And I guess because it's attracting a lot of leaders on the Waitangi Tribunal who themselves don't believe they have to be independent. You can guarantee every claim that goes before it will lead to a conclusion which is negative against the Crown, which just means it's negative against the public in general.
I know your views and the views of New Zealand First and the Waitangi Tribunal that's done its job now, basically. Thank you very much, off you go, and that's the end of them. Is that, and I suspect that's probably the view of the ACT Party as well. Is the only thing that stops that the National Party is still wedded to the Waitangi Tribunal having an ongoing purpose, is it?
Yeah, well, obviously we signed up a coalition agreement, and where we got to in relation to discussions between our leader and the National Party is reflected there. I do think that we can severely curb and use the law to curtail what it is that they're going to do. I mean, in 15 years, to the extent that you and I are still around in our 80s, 15 years, our nation's going to be 200 years old. Okay, at that point, why do you need the Waitangi Tribunal? What earthly purpose could it serve? And if there is a purpose for it to serve as some sort of standing assembly or some sort of function where you actually audit the sustainability and the durability of the historic settlements, okay, maybe somewhere in the state you do need that, possibly. But you don't need a chamber that is designed progressively nowadays as a sort of caustic echo chamber designed to not only reprise, but to distill findings that are inversely related to cohesiveness.
You would think so. Shane, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your time. You have a great rest of the day and look forward to catching up with you soon.
Bye, Michael. Bye.
Okay, good on you. Shane Jones, Minister for just about everything, I have to say.